Will we make a motion, Lisa, to reconvene the council?
He said give us 2 minutes.
Okay.
Wait on the IT guy.
Will we make a motion now? Madam President, I move that we reconvene an open session and seal the minutes of the executive session.
You're all set.
Thanks, Jeff.
A second.
All those in favor?
First, aye.
Marvel, aye.
Gary, aye.
Davis, aye. I'd like to state that no votes were taken in the executive session. And now I guess I'd like to call to order the meeting of September 20th of the
We need to seal the minutes.
Hopkinton Town Council.
We need to seal the minutes of the executive.
Didn't we?
Oh, we need to make a motion. I'd like to, Councilor Marvel, I'd like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the
I thought I
executive
made that
session.
motion. It was...
You combined the motion, just
What?
We did, yes.
to confirm, you made the motion and also stated that you wanted to seal the minutes of the.
Yeah, I think I put them both in the same
You
motion.
did.
Okay.
Okay, good, okay.
Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to call to order the Hopkinton Town Council meeting of September 20th, 2021, to order with a moment of silent meditation and a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item is a hearing for the proposed ordinance amendment to Chapter 20, Traffic and Motor Vehicles. Open a hearing on a proposed ordinance amendment to Chapter 20, Traffic and Motor Vehicles to add Article 4 relating to the use of recreational vehicles, introduced and sponsored by Councilor Marvel. The proposed amendment would add the following Article 4, recreational vehicles, and include sections for purpose which defines recreational motor vehicles, riding on private property, violations and penalties, eluding a police officer or town official, severability, and exceptions. The purpose of the amendment is to restrict the use of ATV-type vehicles on personal property when the operator does not have the landowner's permission, on all conservation land managed by the land trust and others, to prevent damage to trails, fields, parks, etc., as well as protecting hikers and other users from potentially hazardous encounters. This matter was continued from September 7th, 2021. See draft ordinance attached. Is the sponsor present? Okay. And we've done, posted in the Westerly Sun. Now it's open for council discussion.
Madam President, Councilor Hurst, I would say that I think what Councilor Marvel did, representing the land trust, was the appropriate thing. One of the things that was addressed, and I had brought it up, is the concern of the language that said town official, and that has been stricken from the document. My concern is I'm inclined to support this because I know it's maybe an old issue, but a new issue because of the situation in Providence, and the concern in town about trails and protecting the assets of the town of Hopkinton. This could in the future be modified, but I feel confident that we have to do, protect our assets. I know the mopeds were a problem on Block Island, and I see a scenario, Hopkins being a rural town, a spread out town with two major villages, Hope Valley and Ashaway, and points in between, that even if we need a police officer to, intervene in any of these places, it could be a while for the police officer to get there, because Hopkins is a pretty spread out town. And I think, and I've never seen any good argument against this point by point. I think that a lot of us live in neighborhoods that people have mini bikes and other motorized vehicles that drive around, make a lot of noise, and could be a possible safety situation, including protection of private property, in addition to protecting land that's owned by the town of Hopkins. So I haven't seen any compelling reason not to support this, and I plan to vote for it. Thank you.
Bob, do you have anything to say?
Well, I will admit that the wording where it was stating, to not include a police officer or town official, that was actually removed quite a while ago.
Yeah,
And that was a mistake that it was presented that way. So we did intend for it to be just police officers.
Well, I brought it up at the last meeting,
Yep.
and if you read the presently in the page one, but I know that, and it's just to protect the town from any liabilities or anything else. There's no reason a town official with cell phones can call the police, and if they're present, they can identify the vehicle. I know Block Island really had an issue with mopeds over there. Maybe they're registered, but in a small town like this that's really spread out, I think we should nip it in the bud, protect town property, and I think we have to have a reasonable expectation that people will be reasonable drivers, respect town property, and if it needs modification in the future, fine, but right now, I just think it's what the town needs. Thank you.
Okay. Mike, do you
Yep.
have anything?
Council Gear here. I kind of concur, let's speak with this thing on. I concur with both councilors, Marvel and Scott. You know, the last thing is we want to do is you're out on a trail, on a land trust, and somebody gets hurt by an ATV that shouldn't be there on the trails, something like that. That's the kind of last thing we need. Yes, it would be, I kind of agree, I ride an ATV, on my property pretty much daily, so I know how it is, that some people like the idea of driving it, but unless you've got the property owner's permission and you got something like that, there's absolutely no reason to be riding on someone's property or on the land trust. I fully support Council Marvel's thoughts on this, and I support it.
Okay, I agree. Is there anyone who wants to give any public comment? State your name.
From the French Village. Is this, I don't see anything about the electric bikes or the bicycles that have little engines on them. Is that defined under the defined vehicles?
No, I don't believe so.
I don't think it is.
Because you do, the electric bikes, they have, like balloon tires where they can take them on rough terrain, on the beach. So there are different types of electric bicycles.
Something that we should probably take into consideration.
I mean, I think if you read the definition section, I think it would include something like that, because it talks about a motor vehicle designed to travel over unimproved terrain that has been determined by the Division of Motor Vehicles as unsuitable for operation on the public way and not eligible for registration. I mean, it's something we could add in specifically, I think you could probably say that that would be included here.
Well, it says mini bikes, dirt bikes, snowmobiles. It's in section 2066.
I think we could add that.
We could add motorized bicycle possibly.
Electrical motorized bikes, what would be the proper language, electrical motorized?
I don't think that should be included, personally. I mean, they're quiet, they don't destroy anything, there's no knobby tires on, they're smooth tires, even the off-road tires are, like a really mild type of snow tire,
Well, I've seen.
Well, it sounds like a mini bike. Is it, would it be defined as a mini bike?
No, because.
Not in my day, it wasn't anyways.
You're talking the regular pedal bikes.
Yeah, like a pedal bike.
They have kind of like what you'd see out on the beach.
Right.
So,
Okay, yeah, that wouldn't have a
We can leave
motor.
that off.
So, Councilor Marble here, I don't know what the, and I'm speaking specifically of land trust land, I don't know what their standing is currently on whether they allow bicycles, mountain bikes, for example, on their trails.
You see, the problem with this ordinance, as I read it, is the fact it's not limited to land trust. It says private property and I think town property, so it's not strictly limited to land trust property.
Well, I think they're,
Thank you.
I think when they presented it at the last meeting, they were, the main purpose behind this was to prevent damage to property. I don't know that that would come from a bicycle. That might be something we'd want to ask the chief, if he would agree with
I will
that.
note that and bring that question back to land trust and to Chief Palmer.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Land trust, would you like me to address that?
Good question, though.
Yes, please. State your name.
Good evening, Carol Baker. Can you hear me? Yes. I live in Ashaway. I've been on the land trust since its inception in 2000, I think. The main intent of this proposal that was brought forth by Councilor Marble in conjunction with the police is that we are concerned about motorized vehicles, what we think of ATVs, because we've had damage on a lot of properties due to unrestricted use by folks that are just accessing property from other areas, not from the trailhead and things like that. And we reached out to the police from time to time, and they really haven't had a vehicle, I'm sorry, that's probably a method, a regulatory method to go after these folks. And it just gives them teeth and support, which is why the police was into it. To answer this gentleman's question, I'm very familiar with, a friend of mine has one of those pedal bikes with the motor. These aren't motors, they're not motors. In terms of, most of the property that's given or that we buy from the land, that we buy from folks, are specific restrictions when the property is transferred. Mountain bikes themselves, pedal ones, can cause problems because of their knobby tires and things like that. But it's on a case-by-case basis. I don't think that this statute or this amendment was aimed at electric bikes. This is more motorized vehicles that really tear stuff up. But the chief might be able to talk about that.
Yeah, and I think that in terms of, town property and roads, I'd have to discuss that with Chief Palmer also because, obviously bicycles are allowed on town roads and town property. So, if he considers, a bicycle, motorized bicycle with a motor, then if he considers it, equivalent to a bicycle, then maybe that, he would probably opt to leave that out.
And maybe we do need clarification, because I've seen two different types of bicycles. There's bicycles that actually do have a tiny gas-powered motor on them,
Yeah.
where they're not pedaling and is still protecting. These electric bikes, I'm assuming that this gentleman has, that's not what it is. It's a little push to help you get up the hill.
Yeah.
And it's, you hardly even notice it's there versus where the thick little, but there are some properties where bikes are not allowed as well. for.
So, yeah, because in...
It depends on trail design and things like that,
Yeah.
and what the desire of the property owner who gives the land trust the property. We have to follow their guidelines, the easements, which are legal documents without,
Yeah, because as part of this definition, it says that vehicles that have been determined by the Division of Motor Vehicles as unsuitable for operation on the public way.
right,
So, I mean, bicycles,
That's
motorized
right.
bicycles would be fine on public roads.
right.
But ATVs and, you know, things like that generally not. So that might be a delineation there.
And this definition I took straight from a state statute. I think I added, dirt bikes was like the only change I made here. So this is, aside from a minor change that I made, this is the state's definition of what a recreational vehicle is.
So it sounds like, to get back to your question, it sounds like, and I'll confirm this with Chief Palmer, that motorized bicycles would not be included in this ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's not many motorized bicycles that exist.
Are there any other comments from the public? Okay. Then I guess I would entertain a decision to,
I move, close the hearing, and what are the available dates, Lisa?
Do we have a second?
Second.
So your next regularly scheduled town council meeting would be October 4th. So that would be your earliest opportunity.
Okay, we got to vote on the motion to close the hearing, right?
Well, you're asking me
Yeah.
a question, and then so it's being discussed. So that's my input for you as you enter your discussion. So that it would be some of the information that you have.
Should that should be a
So it's
separate
a-
motion though, right?
Correct, but you asked me a question.
Yeah, I know I did, so just call the question, Karen, on closing hearing.
Do we need clarification before we close the hearing on whether, from Chief Palmer, on whether motorized bicycles would be included in this or not? Before we close
I
the hearing?
think so.
I think that's what, isn't that what you were asking?
So that's not going to happen.
Do you want-
So I guess we can,
But I mean, it seems that our solicitor used like a template pretty much on coming up with the ordinance, so I would seem that,
I can tell you that I did send this most recent version to the chief, and he responded that he was agreeable with how it was written now.
okay, so I'll let that stand then.
so
But I
you're,
didn't present that question about bicycles or motorized bicycles to him.
They're just not that common, not like many bikes or,
but Bob, you're the sponsor, so you can decide whether you want to continue it to,
We can go to a decision, I think.
you want me to withdraw my motion and continue this another 2 weeks?
No, I think
Okay.
we're good. I think, as you say,
I know that the chief has seen this version as it's written here tonight, yes.
okay, I just wanted to make sure everyone's question was answered clearly, and
Well, you
All
got a
right.
motion in a second.
so your motion is to set a date for the hearing?
No.
Close the-
My motion, we got to set a date for the hearing. I made a motion, the hearing be closed.
And set a date for the decision?
There was a
Then
second.
you had a second. So now you need a vote.
Okay, all those in favor?
Marvel, aye.
First, aye.
Gary, aye.
Davis, aye.
Madam President, I move that the decision on this ordinance be held at the October 4th, 2021 meeting of this town council.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
First, aye.
Marvel, aye.
Gary, aye.
Davis, aye.
All right, outstanding.
The consent agenda. Approved town council meeting minutes of September 7th, 2021. Accept the following monthly financial activity report. Town clerk approve refund resulting from 2021 motor vehicle tax abatement and a duplicate real property tax payment submitted by the tax collector. Approve abatement resulting from the 2021 real property condition adjustment submitted by the tax assessor. Is there a motion?
I have a, Council President, I have a question first for Lisa. For Lisa, so as I was not present last time, I should not vote either way on the minutes, but I can vote on the other items.
Right.
How do I handle that?
You can ask that the,
September
He
7th?
just says any abstentions.
right, he's asking
Abstain for it.
specifically about the meeting minutes where he was not present, and you prefer probably to vote abstain.
Yes, correct.
So,
Just ask for it to be pulled, that's what you said.
but you've already gone ahead and got a motion and a second.
I'll withdraw my motion if the second's withdrawn, and we can restate that motion. That's how
So
it-
what I would recommend you do is that Council Marvel could ask that those meeting minutes be pulled, so you can vote on it separately, then go forward and vote on the rest of the consent.
Yeah, so I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
And you're going to withdraw the second?
I withdraw my second.
Okay.
Council President, I request that the meeting minutes be pulled so that we can vote separately.
Okay. Then we now have to have a motion for
I
the,
make a motion.
without the September
we should vote,
7th.
You know, I'm being petty. I make a motion that we agree to approve the consent agenda with the exception of that withdrawn by Council Marvel.
September.
Second.
All those in favor?
First, aye.
Gary, aye.
Marvel, aye.
Davis, aye. Now, the minutes of September 7th?
I don't have to make a motion to adopt that. But, Councilor Burris, I make a motion that the minutes pulled by Council Marvel be approved, that line item in the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Burris, aye.
Gary, aye.
Davis, aye.
Marvel, abstain.
Excellent.
That's good, okay. Now, the town manager report, the FY21 audit.
Good evening, council. So I'll make this quick. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that the FY21 audit is underway. At this point, I just wanted to bring to your attention, we're a little bit behind schedule. So I'm trying to focus the next couple weeks. I'm going to be at the finance office probably more than at the town manager's office, just to try to really get caught up on things. The auditors are planning to come back out, I believe, 2 weeks from now. And like I said, we're a little bit behind where we usually are at this point this year, just because, you know, wearing the two hats. So I'm going to try to buckle down the next couple weeks. So if I'm not as responsive as I have been, that's why. But I certainly will respond as quick as possible. But just so you know, I'm going to try to keep my head down the next couple of weeks and just get through this year. I know it.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, old business, discussion of the findings of the Potter Hill Dam Committee. Jim? You have the floor.
Good evening,
State your name.
Jim Duxter.
Okay.
Jim Duxter,
Your address, sir?
14 Chase Hill Road, Ashway Road.
Okay.
Okay, so we want to, come to give an update to the committee here. And let everybody know that time is of the essence. Westerly is proceeding forward with this dam removal. And their plans are to finalize their approach in October and submit for permitting. And once that happens, there's no going back here. We were able to, with Sharon's help, and some others here, we're able to engage with Westerly and at least get them to accept us helping with the well surveys, which is extremely critical there's 205 properties in Hopkinton that have wells that are within 1,000 feet of the river. They were willing to just proceed forward with 25 responses to their well surveys altogether. And we were able to interject and say, no, we need to get these well surveys in, you need to accept results that are coming in. And thanks to the town's help, we were able to get that deadline extended to October 1st. And we're working personally with the team here, with feet on the street, to make sure people are filling these in. This is extremely critical that these well surveys come in. We feel there's potential, a great potential for impact. We don't have city water in Hopkinton. The river level is going to drop up to 6.5 feet. And for people with dug wells, gravel pack wells, point wells, this could be an impact for them with the river level drop. It could drop the water table, and then they have the wells drop. The cost for a driven well could be $15,500 to $20,000 or even more. We had a well expert come in and meet with the committee and review with us what the costs were, all in, for a new well. And that's very considerable. Additionally, beyond the well impacts, there's going to be 52 acres of open water between the Potter Hill Dam and the Bradford Dam that are going to be eliminated by the dam removal. But even more impactful is going to be 2,001 acres of wetlands that will be dewatered. And currently this is being presented in a way that they're converting wetlands. And how it's being presented is, I'm going to hand some copies out to the committee here. Presented is, they're changing from floating emergent wetlands, which is what we're kind of familiar with, lily pads, some grasses in the water, and this is where you see the egrets, the blue heron, the ducks, the geese are all swimming and feeding. And they're going to change it into what's called shrub forested wetlands.
And I got multiple ones of those.
You have multiple ones. Okay, thank you, Scott.
I need to look at it.
Let me grab it.
I have that.
Are you all set?
Yeah, I have that.
It was in our packet too in the end.
It's
Okay, very
right here at the back.
And if you look at the pictures that the Westerly Committee provided on March 18th, it's very clear where they're going. They're saying, here's 2 other dam removals, and here's what they look like 6 months after, with a very wide river like we have today, down to a stream in one of those pictures, the one on the right. And then 6 years after, that wide river has become shrubs and forest. And, personally, I'm very concerned because they might be converting wetlands, but geese, egrets, ducks, turtles don't swim in the forest or shrubs. They swim in wetlands. And these wetlands have been here for hundreds of years. I'll take a breath for any questions on this.
I just want to say, Sharon, that I'm really proud. I've been going to meetings. They're an outstanding group, and they're really a credit to the town, and it's not an easy topic. And they've been going to the Ashbury Fire Station for meetings at 6 o'clock, by the way, if anybody's interested. And they've really spent a lot of time, and they should be saluted by the town for their work for this community.
I agree.
Yeah, I just
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just, when this originally came up, I was like, nah, this is never going to happen, but it looks like it's on track to, and I've I do like your handout here, it's excellent. Yeah, my thing is, if it's broke, don't fix it. There you go. You want to tear down the mill, you want to do something like that, that's fine, but me and you have talked offline. It would be, can we do something, put some granite across it, get behind the other side of the dam, shore it up somehow or something like that. And I never really got a clear answer on it. I was with someone, with another organization who's part of the watershed team. But this affects, everybody can sit there and point, it's Westerly. This affects a good part of us. So I commend you for what you and your group do, and the councilors are involved. I would join, but if there's three of us there would be a problem. So I thank you, Jim.
So Mike, I'd like to, if I could kind of fill in a little information on something you just mentioned, because there's been a lot of information that's been presented in a single-minded fashion. And we've all heard a lot about dam safety. It's not the dam itself that's a safety concern. We did the research and we found that the concern is with the mill race gates that control the water flow through that mill.
Yeah, the turbines inside of the mill that people really can't see.
Upstream of the mill, right at the dam, there are gates that are inoperable and they're blocked with wood, and that wood is failing. And those feed 6 mill races that feed through that property. And the problem is not the dam itself, it's the race gates.
Yep.
Which if that wood was to fail, that would be a sudden release of water downstream, and that's the concern that's been raised. What I haven't heard mentioned at all, and we have asked for a meeting with the engineers, and that meeting did not happen. I'll talk about that in a minute. But our team said, why can't you just fill in the mill races? Truckloads of dirt and just fill them in, and that takes away that urgent concern that they've been highlighting, so much, if it is such a safety concern. That would be the first consideration, is to mitigate that concern right away. We haven't not heard any word about that, but I just wanted to make sure you were clear on what the concern was with the dam.
Oh, yeah, but the person I did talk to, he said, it's not just the dam. He goes, I call them turbines, whatever you would, that's my engineering background, where they would push water through. He said, I said, well, what else? We just put granite, we left that, we put granite up. He goes, you'd have to go halfway into Laurel Street, tear that apart, build that whole bank up. And he goes, the real problem is inside the mill. Everybody thinks it's the dam, but it's inside the mill. You'd have to go, I think he said anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 feet in there to close everything off. But I know what you're saying.
Now, there's a lot of talk about the mill. Tonight, the Westerly Town is talking about tearing down the mill and allocating relief funds to tear down the mill. That's in discussion.
Allocating what? You said allocating something, I didn't hear that.
Allocating $400,000
Okay.
to tearing down the mill using the COVID relief funds, if I'm not mistaken, is the source. I think the posting is in the Westerly Sun.
Yep.
And we received that today. Was it COVID?
Yes, it was COVID.
I'm sorry if I'm a little muffled here. Okay, so there was supposed to be a meeting on August 30th with the Potter Hill Dam Information Committee, Noah, Fuss and O'Neill, and that was canceled. We had a well-thought-through collection of questions for multitudes of things that just, the details have not been shared, that do need to be understood more, so, understand the direction. There was multiple options to how to address this dam that have been eliminated without all the results from the studies that are in progress today, including the wells. And how they've narrowed this down to this single option is a concern. there was a meeting with the Town of Westerly on September 2nd. And that was to establish a broader meeting with the Town of Westerly. Has there been any actions since?
Well, I think I sent to you that I gave you a Potter Hill Dam update from my viewpoint. As of September 15th, the well surveys were mailed to a combined list of 165 residents on the Potter Hill Dam Information Committee list, and the remaining 91 residents on the Town of Westerly list. And they're due by September 27th to give the town clerk's office time to input any hand-delivered surveys by the October 1st deadline. In addition, the town did do robocall, targeted robocall also on the 15th. And,
If I could just, I am aware of those actions, we're very involved in.
okay, but I'm just, for the record, I'm reading
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry, Sean.
Okay. I also called Suzanne Patton of the Southern New England office of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. She's assured me that the dam will not be taken out until we have the money to do the whole project, including impacted areas. She considers affected wells in Hopkinton to be part of the whole project. And her agency, quote unquote, will take responsibility to help find the funding needed. I told her that the funding for our wells should go directly to Hopkinton so that we are in control of the distribution. And the next step is to meet with everyone after October 1st to determine the full impact on the wells in Hopkinton. The federal funding year will begin after October 15th, and Suzanne was willing to help us work through the process of applying for funding. Also, and I will, I sent that update to the town manager of Westerly. I sent it to Lisa Pellegrini, and I sent it to Gina Fuller and Suzanne, and in full disclosure, I guess. I told her that what I was going to do and what I was going to say at this meeting. And she sent an email back, and I am going to read this to you. Sharon, thank you for providing us with your notes and for updating the rest of your town council. One clarification, I cannot assure you that we will be able to secure federal funds or that the coastal program, which is the program that the Fish and Wildlife are that she's involved with, will have sufficient funds to cover whatever need is identified and confirmed to be needed and tied directly to the work at the dam. But I will commit to working with you to help identify potential funding sources and to apply for those funds if needed. Her fiscal year ends also on September 30th, so she has to wait to see what her budget is before she's willing to commit. In searching for that, I also sent you guys, there was a Wood-Pawcatuck Watershed Flood Resiliency Management Plan that was done for Rhode Island in August 2017 by Fuss and O'Neill. The project funding was provided by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, Hurricane Sandy Coastal Resiliency Competitive Grant Program. And for Hopkinton, their recommendation was to remove the Potter Hill Dam. So they thought that in 2017. I can't imagine that Fuss and O'Neill would change their minds. However, I had to work today, you know. But I was going to call Jim Lanfear and get the contact at Fuss and O'Neill and ask him the question. I think you deserve to hear it from him, that there really isn't, you know, all the suggested ways you think that they should do it differently, whether it's part of the NOAA grant or not. At least you need to be satisfied that Fuss and O'Neill either agrees with you or doesn't.
So the thing to be clear here, Sharon,
Yeah?
is there's many options. There's 3 other options that include removing the dam.
If it costs Westerly more money than taking the dam down? They're not gonna want to spend it. Go on the record, that property is in receivership. The town of Westerly doesn't want to spend any more money for anything about that dam. That has to require more maintenance or whatever. Or even more money than what they've negotiated with NOAA for the grant. So I don't think that it's going to help, it's going to be different. But, go ahead.
The report that you're reading from, if you go to either the last or the next to the last page, look at the recommended option that Fuss and O'Neill put in that report, and the recommended option that they have in that report.
Well,
You should probably go up and wait.
you need to tell me where, because,
I don't have it in front of me, but if you hand it to me, I'll show it to you.
Because so the public can hear it clearly.
this is what I sent to you guys.
If you look at that paragraph right there, the last paragraph on that page, the recommended approach.
Rock ramps,
If you would read
That
that
one?
out
Okay.
loud, that's really what we would like to see done.
rock ramps or similar nature-like fish passage structures are recommended where feasible, where removal is not a viable option due to the need to maintain the impoundment for recreational or other purposes. Rock ramps can also be used in conjunction with phased removal of a dam if it is determined that the hydrologic or environmental impacts resulting from a full dam removal are unacceptable. Yes, this was in your general description of how they developed their recommendations.
That recommendation has been made by several groups multiple times in this process as the preferred or best design criteria. And we've been searching to find out why the town of Westerly has refused to consider it. It's one of our primary questions, because if that was, excuse me, my name is Carl Rosen.
Hold on, Mike.
Yep. It's just for the recording, yeah, I hear you.
My name is Carl Rosen, I live on River Road in Ashway, and I'm a member
It's on
of
page
the
44.
dam committee. And I've done research on 5 different dams that are removed all around the country. And Ripple Pool, or the nature-like fishway, or whatever they call it there's different terminology for it. But it's just like what they did up in Bradford. In essence, when they remove the dam, they provide a series of tiers after where the dam is, so that the overall river level doesn't change from the beginning to the end of the process. And if that was what the town did, if that's what Fuss and O'Neill was recommending, that's what other engineers and studies have proven to be the best design criteria for dam removal. If that was done, none of this well would be an issue.
Then I
Now,
think, go ahead.
I identified today, just in canvassing the homes on my list of people to go to today, 18 shallow wells that are in jeopardy. I think we're going to find at the end of the result of the Hopkinton well survey, there are somewhere between 50 and 100 wells that are going to be impacted by this. Now, I know the professor at URI who's working on the study to determine exactly where this line is going to be drawn, because I've worked with him in the past and I've talked to him about this. If, just to take an average of 50 wells and to take an average of $20,000, it's $1 million. If the town of Westerly wants to spend $1 million on putting all new wells in for everybody, instead of taking that $1 million and adding it to whatever they've received from NOAA and whoever else is getting funding from, and doing the better design criteria, that would be the win-win for everybody. The wells wouldn't be impacted, the river would maintain its level, it would be a recreational highlight just as it is today, and it wouldn't suffer from dropping the water level down 6.5 feet, which in many areas of the river is going to end up having between 1.5 feet and 2 feet of water level. That's not a fish passageway at 2 feet for migrating fish. They can't migrate there. There's some things that have not been addressed in detail, which is why we wanted to have the meeting. And I was the one who prearranged the meeting before it got upended, let's just say.
Mhm.
Again, there's a lot of information out there that is general information. There's a lot of statistics about the water level that are general averages, instead of being specific issues. With climate change, we don't know what the weather's going to be 5 or 10 years from now. If there's not spring rains, if there's a drought condition in the spring in 2030, and they drop the river 6.5 feet, and we've got a natural drought condition that drops it another 2 feet, there could be 12 inches of water in that river for migrating fish. That's going to kill the migrating fish. Fish ladders, that's nothing compared to that. Some things are not being considered that should be considered here. And blocking the questions from being asked is a questionable strategy that I find to be, I wonder why. And if they just want to do it the cheapest way instead of the best way, I guess we're all going to suffer.
Well, I'm the kind of person that likes to get data too. So I think you have the right, we have the right to contact Fuss and O'Neill and have them come to one of your meetings. I really do think that should be something that we should do and support.
And I have my big question for the town council is, and I know you're newly elected, and you have a new manager, and in the past 5 or 10 years, has the town of Westerly approached Hopkinton to share this information, to ask you to work with them on this? Isn't there any rule in the state of Rhode Island that requires a bordering town to work with another town when there's an issue?
Well, I will let you know that Jim Lanford did help to make this. He provided information for this flood resiliency management plan.
Apparently, I talked to,
So he was aware of it, and it was only a plan. The funding was only to create a plan, not necessarily to implement it, okay? So I would say we really should get input from Fuss and O'Neill.
you know, apparently, I mean, Frank, I guess there was some maybe minor communication, but this whole thing is baloney because I've been on the town council 8 terms and it never was really a high priority. And as far as I'm concerned, and I've lived in Ashway all my life, almost 70 years, that dam has never been really a concern. The town of Wesley, and it was probably difficult that the dam, I mean, the mill was the problem. I'm just concerned about taking the dam down because they see a venue to take care of the mill, which was neglected for generations. The bottom line is, what hasn't been said, that I want to say, I'm not a realtor, I'm not an expert on real estate, but I'm going to tell you, that's definitely going to impact people's property values. And I would imagine in the negative, especially if somebody's looking to buy property with river frontage, if the river goes down, not counting the well situation, which is very serious. And it's ridiculous. And plus, the lack of respect to the town of Hopkinton, the boundary of the 2 towns is in the middle of the river. And it seemed that Wesley driving the bus, town of Hopkinton is just barely got on the bus. You know, so, I mean, this whole thing is a bunch of baloney, the way it's been handled. And I salute the committee because they're in a bad situation, but they're giving it the old college try for the town of Hopkinton, and deserve to be applauded for it. And I acknowledge your making some of them contacts, and I've been trying to go to meetings and taking this in, but this whole thing doesn't seem to be done professionally. They have other options that Mr. Rosen has presented, and you should be able to go down that list and why this option is not the best option, and go right down the list and all these alternatives. Something that has a profound change historically in the Westerly Hopkinton area of Potter Hill. The whole thing is not done logically. Thank you.
Okay.
And I want to thank you, Sharon, for the work that you've done, because clearly you care about this and you've helped us get some things worked out that needed to be worked out. But at the same time, when I set this meeting up for the 30th, and then we got it canceled that Friday before at the very last minute, and we spoke about this. That should be pretty clear to everybody on the town council, that there's an agenda here that they're driving, and it has nothing to do with the benefit of the people in Hopkinton, or even allowing us to raise questions which are important questions. Thank you for your time.
I agree.
Thank you, Mr. Rosen.
I would hope that, I know we're being into October past the 1st, but we should have the patio dam on the agenda and just an update.
I expect it
See
to.
if anything late we can do. Thank you.
Hi, Marie Ward, 42 River Road, Ashway. So knowing all this, what Westerly's planning on doing, nowhere in their proposal is there any line item for well replacements, just not mentioned at all.
Correct.
So what can we do, and what are you guys going to do, legal counsel, moving forward? I mean, more than anything, we can't have our wells impacted.
Well,
So is there something we can do legally? Is there an injunction we can do?
Well, the thing I was
Place? I
thinking,
mean,
The best advice I could give would be for the landowners to get a private attorney to consult with, because the town can't step in to defend private property rights and private property
okay,
interests.
so the town can't defend residents' rights? Is that what you're saying? That's what I hear you saying, the town, our town council, so our town council can just let this happen and we all have to get an attorney to stop this from happening, to protect our wells? Is that what I hear you saying?
That's what I would suggest. I can't give any legal advice to you about your private land and your private property rights.
But can't the town do something to stop the dam removal moving forward, since it's going to impact the town's residents' drinking water? This is our water. We're not talking my property value, forget that, because that's a whole other story. This is our drinking water. So if the town cannot do anything on its residents' behalf, the town cannot go to Westerly and say, this is an unacceptable proposal, because this is going to impact our town's drinking water.
yeah, I'd like to ask a question of the solicitor. I think this is a public health issue, and I might go on my own without the approval of the council to the Department of Public Health, because I think it's a public health issue, and I would ask the solicitor here and now, can the council make a decision of sending a letter to the Director of Public Health to review the health situation because of a loss of wells?
The council could draft a letter.
Could we make a motion that one be drafted tonight? Or does it have to be listed on the agenda?
I would say you probably would want to have that listed on the agenda, because this was only listed as an
Discussion,
update
yeah.
from the committee. It wasn't
Okay,
listed as any council action.
I will ask Steve Mock, and I'm sure he's going to be listening to this, that I request that a letter be drafted and be discussed at the next town council meeting or a special meeting if he deems necessary, that a letter be sent to the Director of Public Health, or even the federal level, dealing with health, dealing with the loss of wells or the capacity of wells for people in this town, and I will be asking the council president to put that on the agenda. You know something, I understand that people have to get legal counsel, but this committee has had the back for this town, and I think we should have the back for this committee. And, you know, if we can't hire, spend money legally, we should, if we can't send a letter to the Director of Public Health and say, these people are gonna lose a well, we're not much of a town council. And so I'm gonna ask the President of the Council to put a letter together, either at a special meeting or the next council meeting. This is baloney. This is why town councils don't command the respect to the public. We're gonna go down, let's go down and fight it. Thank you.
Sharon, can I just add what Carl pointed out to you, that last paragraph, about if any of the other options are unacceptable? This is unacceptable, and I expect that our council, it will fight for the town residents and say, this is unacceptable. We will not have any of our residents lose water or have to get their own legal counsel, or have to get their own water. That's an
Well, I would-
unacceptable option.
I will tell you, I asked Susan, I said, even though she's not part of NOAA, okay, because the grants with NOAA in Westerly, okay, Fish and Wildlife happened to have funded replacing wells when other dams were taken down. So that's why I contacted her. And when she said, you know, she would take responsibility, I said, what if you don't get the funding to replace the wells? Does that mean this project will go down, will not happen? And she said she thought it wouldn't happen. That's what she said,
Right.
okay?
That's not good enough.
Exactly, exactly.
You want something right.
But for me, I'm ready to do, I'm willing to fight, but I have to know what my facts are. So I'm ready, after October 1st, when I know that if you think there's 50 wells, I need to have
Right.
I need to have that,
But
those,
I
that
appreciate
data.
that you are willing to fight, but I hope you are all willing to fight on behalf of the residents. I mean,
Madam
like I said,
President?
it's not only recreational and fish, it's drinking water. There will be families without water.
I will tell you that I attended on Friday, I attended a webinar for another program called Watershed Flood Prevention Operations Program through the USDA. Now, their flyer said that they took, that, you know, rural water supply was one of the things. But when I went to that meeting, it really was, they're only interested in flood prevention projects. They also can't get involved, the USDA can't get involved if another federal agency is involved. So we can't do it. But I'm gonna tell you, I did at least attend the webinar to try to find out. And I called her on it, but, you know, if they can't do it, they can't do it.
I think we're all a little late to the party.
True, but you can't talk about what the possibility, you have to have
But
facts.
time is.
Yeah, you have to have facts,
What
yes.
concerns me is what Marie spoke about, is the fact that the wells weren't included in Wesley's proposal. We're supposed to be partners on, and we're not equal partners, that's the whole problem. You know, Wesley has city water right up to the town line. They didn't go out and say, well, Hopkins gonna have a problem, let's make sure that's a proposal. That's what thinking about your partner. I mean, I don't like, that's not fair play, that's not fair for this town.
I agree with you, but I even asked the lady at the USDA, I brought it up. Well, what about the fact that people are gonna lose their wells? Who should be responsible for that? And unfortunately, she said the same thing, that it's, it's the individual homeowner. That's what she said to me. So, that doesn't mean that has to be the way it is, but I'm just saying, I asked the question.
And I thank you very much for asking us, Sharon, and I thank you for reaching back out and trying to get confirmation from her, and she replied back that she couldn't give us anything. In reality, talk was talk, but when you asked for it in writing, she wouldn't confirm that she was there to back us up. So that's an extreme concern. The other extreme concern is that, it'd be one thing if it was your own doing and your welfare. But this is a doing of another public agency, the Westerly Town, and other agencies that are partnering with them. This is not our own doing to have these wells done. And beyond that, it's federal funding that's being used to do this. And if our wells are taken away by federal funding that all of us as taxpayers are doing, this is a travesty.
Exactly.
If we don't have representation, well, that's even worse. But I also want to say, I want to kind of go on to another thing that Marie was saying. She was talking about the residences. We also have public drinking supplies that are affected. We've got the Baptist Church on Chase Hill Road. We have the Lucky House Restaurant. We've got the former Imperial Wallpaper building. We'll likely find other places that are serving more than just the private residents, and that becomes a public drinking supply. And I think that might be more of a concern to where Scott was saying addressing something to the Department of Health would be critical. but we feel we need representation here, and the urgency, we met with the town, the last time we did an update, we brought back our findings from the reports that we read, including the one that Paul just reiterated, and presented to this committee that we recommended a nature-like fishway that would not drop the level of the river. That is exactly what the reports were that we read. We don't know why Westerly's turned this, and we have not gotten answers to our questions. And we're asking for your help to engage with the town of Westerly, have meaningful discussions with this. And so my ask is there was a meeting with Westerly on September 2nd. What is the next step for the town of Westerly?
Before we get to vote, can I ask you to take the help in?
Sure, okay, excuse me. I'll definitely take the floor.
Just to give you some information to be helpful, I've studied 5 other dam removals across the country, and it is the common procedure that when a dam is being removed, if there are wells that are being affected, that the monies are allocated in the front side of the project to deal with that. In fact, I've seen projects where there were areas where they determined that there might be a quality of water residual impact up to a year later on deeper wells that they couldn't determine would or would not be a factor, and they had a contingency fund for those wells as in addition to. So it's a common practice when dams are removed that when there's a socio-economic impact, people's drinking water, that be addressed in the beginning and part of the process and not afterwards. The last thing any of us want to see is 20 homes calling the town of Westerly on Monday morning, my well ran dry, what do I do now? I mean, there's absolutely no reason for that to occur in that way. This should and must be addressed on the front side. It should be addressed firmly without any equivocity. You know, there shouldn't be any question about the monies being available or not being available. It has to be managed from the beginning and not be managed as an afterthought the way it appears to be right now. So there's a precedent in dam removal that wells are taken care of in the beginning, just to let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Has there been next steps established with Westerly, where I left off?
Pardon?
Has there been next steps established with Westerly?
What I have is that we're going to get the survey, the results of the survey. Then we can talk real money, because we'll know exactly how many dams are potentially affected. And I know that she's probably going to send, Gina or somebody's probably going to send an engineer to look at each property that we think is a potential problem, to verify that it's that. And then when you have the number, if the number is 50, that's ridiculous. If the number is 50, then you can go and, write letters to everybody saying this is a catastrophe and it's affecting too many people in our town and we need help, And we really don't want any action taken to take that well down until we get the funding for replacement or whatever. And I also, like I said, I also think we need to talk to Fuss and O'Neill. If you really want to have that meeting, we need to move forward and make another date to have that meeting.
Do you have Lisa Pellegrini's support in doing this, having this meeting? Because she's the one who stopped that meeting.
I know, but I don't think she should have anything to do with it. Frankly.
Well, I think she did. She stopped.
Well, but she's in Florida, so if she wanted to come to the meeting, she couldn't have. She lives in Florida, okay? And maybe that's why. Maybe it was really that she could not get, her schedule wasn't there, but we didn't even have her in that schedule. We didn't include her in that meeting.
Exactly.
So I think maybe she might have been afraid because it was going to be a big public meeting. Okay.
They should tell you something right there.
Okay, but, it is what it is. I'm just saying, I'm willing to meet with Fuss and O'Neill, and have him meet with you guys? You know,
Okay, but that was the original intent of that.
I know.
That was, it was not to be a big public meeting. It was-
Well, but the way it was advertised, it was like, it could have been the next big meeting like they had in the spring, but it was in Hopkinton rather than in Westerly. If you read how it was, listed, you know?
The only reason for that is that we're required by some rule and regulation
I know,
to
I know,
do that.
I know,
That was not
I know.
the intent of the meeting, that was the result of the fact that, what
Yes.
is the reason that we have to do?
The open meeting law, you have to disclose
Open
whatever
meeting
you
law.
The only reason that may have been perceived in that way was because of the open meeting law. It had nothing to do with any of the communications between us and Noah and Fuss and O'Neill. It was pretty clear we were looking to get some questions answered, and they understood that.
Well, I think we should definitely have them come to either your next meeting and after October 1st, or the town council's meeting. We should have them there. We should have a meeting with them.
Is it acceptable to have them meet with us at the fire station?
Yes, we're not.
I don't,
Well, I think that's what we previously did, and that seems to be what has been highlighted as the problem that stopped it.
It stopped it.
So.
it didn't, Carl, you implied that they were willing to come, right?
They had already committed to the meeting. We
Right.
had communication with, what's his name? from Noah?
Jim Turk.
Jim Turk.
Right, and Wilbur, was it Mills Wilbur?
And he had agreed to the meeting, he asked for a time and a date. We gave them 5 different dates to pick from. They narrowed it down to 2 with a preferential for 1. We met the preferential date that they had, and we suggested a time and place, and they were completely on board until one person upended the whole thing, as far as I can tell, for political reasons. It had nothing to do with misinterpreting an open meeting rule and regulation. I can't understand it other than that.
Okay,
Question.
Yes.
Is there a communication that states that the meeting is being, is there a communication that you have that states where the meeting is being canceled and the purpose?
yes,
Oh, yes.
yes.
Okay, I haven't seen it, so I was just curious.
Yeah, I have a chain of emails.
Yep,
That,
I do too.
we'd like to meet with them, we'd like to ask them questions. I think you have copies of it.
I probably do.
There was a chain of emails leading up to the
Hold on,
cancellation.
hold on.
And that was
I brought my-
communication. I originally reached out to the University of Rhode Island, where I've done some work in the past, trying to gather information around this process so that we could understand what the issues are, what to look for, what are the upsides, the downsides of things. And in my communication to people in the Natural Resource Department, I ended up getting referred to another professor, and then he referred me to Jim Turk at NOAA and suggested that maybe we should all talk to each other. I got additional information from him. He's the gentleman who's doing the well survey for the town of Westerly. He's trying to determine with his students aquifer and watersheds and how far back. That's where the 1,000-foot number came from. We
Okay.
try to determine, how far do we look? 500 feet, 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet? We're not experts in this. And we're advised that 1,000 foot was a reasonable number. They may determine, depending on where the property is located in reference to the river and the aquifer, in some places it might be 800 feet, it might be 500 feet. He said unequivocally, the first 200 to 400 feet are going to be impacted. After that, it's going to be dependent on the property, the water flows. So that's what they're researching.
Sure.
But that's where this meeting came from, is my communication with the people in the Natural Resource Department. And there was unquestionably a agreement to meet with us without any issues. There was no, if this, then that, kind of a question. So it got completely undone the Friday morning before the Monday evening meeting was scheduled, and it was done by one particular person, and how and why, I can only interpret from my perspective. And given that everyone had agreed to it, and then she canceled it, and then my communications back to the people who'd been communicating with me regularly fell on deaf ears. It was clear to me that she told them not to talk to us. I was having clear communication with these people ahead of this, and she cancels it, and I'm done. They don't want to talk to me. No phone calls returned, no emails returned, nothing. Which is why I have interpreted to be, she had a political agenda, she's pushing this thing through, and it's damn the torpedoes full speed ahead, and, you know, we're sitting in front of the torpedoes. So I found it to be very upsetting, because we had a simple meeting plan to answer some questions so that we could provide the town council with a good report. We're trying to do our homework, just like Sharon's been doing. We're trying to do our homework. We're not experts in this field, but we can read and analyze and come up with some conclusions. But if you have questions that you can't get answers to, it's pretty difficult to fight with these people. And they're clearly marching ahead to get permits in the next 30 to 60 days. So they know what they're doing.
Can I just add on about them moving forward? Their meeting in March, we had, there's no meeting, we asked questions online. They never got back to anybody that I know of. They've never returned a call. They never sent an engineer out. When we filled out that well survey in March, no one has been to our house to talk to us about our well. They're not going to. They're going to get the wells. They're not sending engineers out to every well owner. They're just moving ahead. It's
Sharon, I
clear.
got a comment.
They have nothing to, they want nothing to
question
do
for
with
the-
the town.
Citizens
They're just
Insurance.
moving ahead.
It's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Solicitor, is there, Council Gary, solicitors, it's a possibility, from what I'm hearing, it's, well, everything has been said tonight, and I commend the group for doing this, is a possibility to send something to the program manager from us?
That's Lisa Pellegrini.
Yeah, send some, you know,
I mean, absolutely, the
kind
town
of
council
kind of
can,
like, hey, let's sit down and talk, or face legal action, or something like that.
well, I mean, the problem is that this is all privately owned property that is affected.
Right.
So the town doesn't have standing to step in and represent other private landowners whose private land is
Yeah, but
affected.
the town,
The town can do a lot to advocate for the people that are affected, but to step in and say, we're going to stand in your place and bring a lawsuit on your behalf is not something that the town has the ability to do.
but the town has, we might not engage in lawsuits, but the town council is expected to protect the public health and safety of the town. And in consideration of that responsibility, the town can contact government agencies, the Department of Public Health, or any other agency, federal or state, they deem that will advance the interests of the people of this town, whether or not we engage in a lawsuit or not. And I will try to talk to the council president. I will come up with some ideas or a suitable letter for the Department of Health. And I do plan to go to the meeting tomorrow night. I missed the one a week from tomorrow night, but I really am thoroughly impressed with the committee. And the thing is, and if you just tell the truth, say that all these agencies did not get back to you, and that's flowing. That's a lack of respect to the government of this town and lack of respect to the
I mean, think about it, we're talking about pulling this dam down, doing all this, and what is it? It's September 20th. So you figure if this does come down and it does go to tuition, you're not gonna have a well water December, January, February. And it's horrible planning to even think about that you would have, that.
Can I say something, please?
Come up to stand, Joe.
Joe Moreau, Old Depot Road. I don't know if it's too late for this. When I first heard about this committee, I think Bob had told me, or Councilor Hurst had told me what was going on with Potter Hill Mill. It was kind of close to my heart about this because I was pretty much raised in the town of Coventry. And I have a friend whose daughter lives on Johnson's Pond.
And if you're not familiar with that situation, it's very similar to this. New owners of the property, they're looking for, and they're looking for more money from the town of Coventry for the repair of the dam. They're threatening to remove the dam. What used to be waterfront property is now where the boats sit in the mud. The wells are already affected by this. I'm not sure when you guys first started, was it months ago?
Yeah. 4 months?
4 months? 4 months ago, I said to our town council president in an email, I have a friend, his daughter lives on Johnson's Pond. I'd like to reach out. I gave the council president my cell phone number. I said, please have contact person when this committee is established to call me. Coventry is going through this. They could have possibly helped a long time ago. And it may not be too late. My suggestion is that maybe someone from this board or committee could reach out to someone in the town of Coventry. They may be able to give you some different ideas since they've already gone through this.
The town hall maybe?
Town hall, someone in the town of Coventry, or the Johnson's Pond Association. They are the ones that are fighting what's going on in Coventry. And someone here mentioned we're a little late to the ballgame. We didn't have to be late if someone reacted to my request.
I know the state rep that represents parts of West Greenwich and Coventry. You want me to contact her?
I think someone from the Johnson's Pond Association or the town of Coventry. Have we had any luck with our state reps representing this group? I don't know.
Brian Patrick has been a good representative.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. So I don't know if we can get someone from Coventry, but it certainly would not hurt Scott to
She's
get
from
someone
West
else.
Greenwich, but she represents part of Coventry and part of...
Thank you, Joe.
Well, I will pledge to at least try to find the contact for Fussin O'Neill. Is that Niels Wilberg, do you know? If he's the one that was from Fussin O'Neill?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
I would just like to say something, Sharon,
Yep.
because I went out, spent some time in Bob today and yesterday. As an aside issue, we need to do something about the numbering of houses in this town, because you go to houses, you don't know what the number is, and you have to guess, and house numbers in different places. So we got to, that's a side issue, but we got to do something about the numbering of houses.
Councilman, that,
Or the rest of you gets hit.
it's not on the agenda tonight, but that is something that's being worked on.
It is.
There is a 911 ordinance that's being worked on.
I just brought that up.
Or a house
And
numbering.
it was related to this because it was our ability to do the function, collecting the service.
Right.
It is-
But that is an issue that the chief of police is well aware of and that is being worked on.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was related, Counselor, so I would,
Yeah, we
I
talked
might have
about
stretched
it.
it a little bit, but it was relevant, collecting information.
Yeah, we talked about it today.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah, so you asked a question a moment ago, Sharon, Nils Wilberg. He's
Mhm.
in contact with Fussin O'Neill, and we can get you his information.
Okay, thank you.
We'll be fine with doing that. There's been quite a bit of change happening in Westerly recently. Lisa Pellegrini's position was taken over by a new person that came in from Ohio who worked for Mark Rooney. I don't recall his name, but he left fairly rapidly. And now I understand that Mark Rooney, town manager, is leaving.
Today was his last day.
Today is his last day.
Chief Lacy is now he was sworn in tonight as the interim town manager.
All right. So that's good to know, because I was going to ask Brian, are you working with the town manager from Westerly?
The previous town manager, yeah, I've worked with him on a number of occasions.
Okay. In particular to this at all, or?
No, I have not. No.
Did you attend the meeting on September 2nd?
What was
Steve Moffett or Sharon Davis?
Oh, yes, yeah, it was a Zoom meeting, yes,
So maybe,
yes, yep.
and did you establish any next steps with the,
The next steps is to
Yeah.
get the results of the survey, really.
Yeah, that's.
And then you know how much power you have.
They, I mean, again, I don't know, I'm hesitant when I say it. You know, they made it seem that there was not gonna be an urgent thing, it wasn't moving along quickly. Now, take that with a grain of salt, I don't wanna, hang my hat on that, but that was the impression we were getting, and that there was gonna be funding figured out before the next steps were taken. That was the way it was explained to me. Again, that's my interpretation of the conversation. I don't want to go on record and say that's the case because, I'm taking them for their word, but my understanding was that the funding was going to be in place, the well surveys were going to be conducted, they were going to be analyzed, and then that's where the next steps were going to go.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody.
All right, boards and commissions. Announcement regarding vacancies on Charahoe Audit Subcommittee and Charahoe Finance Committee.
Yeah, I would just say that it's certainly important committees, and I would hope that all our citizens who are registered voters would go on the town website and look for the vacancies we have for various boards and commissions, and also these types of appointments.
Okay. Thank you. Now, public forum.
I knew this was coming.
Okay.
Joe Moreau, Old Depot Road. I'm going to refer several times to the council, and I'm not generalizing, and I'm not picking on any one particular person. It's really easy for myself to stand here tonight and discuss my opinion about several points. My intent is not to criticize the council. I have several questions. I don't expect answers at this point, but I would like to know what are the priorities of this council. It is very obvious that 3 council members are going in one direction and 2 council members are on their own. I've been to many, many meetings, as most of you realize, since around June of 2018. Not just council meetings, but planning board meetings, zoning board, conservation land trust. In my opinion, this is not the way to improve our town. At the council meeting on September 7th, we started with 7 people in the room. And after the ATV discussion was done, it was myself and Bob for the rest of the meeting. Previous meeting, I think, was myself and Bob in attendance. By the way, at the 15-minute and 53-second point of the video recording, Chief Palmer said, and I quote, "Quite honestly, for the amount of ATVs we have here, we don't get a lot of complaints," end of quote. And that was Chief Palmer. Right now, we have 6 active boards in our town. There's 7 vacancies. I'm not sure if Lydia is on that list because it was effective July 29th. I'm not sure if Harvey is on that list as a vacancy. I believe there is one more vacancy from the Conservation Commission, and that may be Harvey. At this point, we have 6 inactive boards in our town. It's been that way for a while. It's not just this council. It's been that way for a while. There's 29 vacancies on those boards. The Land Trust has not had a meeting in April, May, or August. The next schedule is September 27th for the Land Trust. Conservation Commission has had not a meeting in July, August, or September. We've gone 3 months without a meeting. Their next scheduled meeting is October 14th. I would not be surprised if we have more people that resign from our Conservation Commission. These are volunteer people, and the shame of this whole thing is, we all know it was because of one individual that went after a member of our Conservation Commission. That is a shame. what are the responsibilities of the liaison to council members? I have a pretty good understanding of that. I would hope that all members of our council are trying to recruit new board members, and I know that happens. I've had several discussions with Councilor Hurst regarding this. In fact, he recruited me as the town moderator for 1 year. He recruited me for the Director of Public Welfare, and I appreciate that. We don't have residents attend our meetings. We don't have enough residents that apply to our boards and commissions. Our former town manager left in October of 2020. It was announced at the last council meeting on September 7th that Brian, and I agree with the decision, is our new town manager. It took us 10 months to fill that critical position. In my opinion, that should have been one of our #1 priorities, is to fill the town manager's position. Most people do not attend budgeting meetings. The budgeting process will be starting soon. We're in the middle of an audit, as we heard tonight. We're looking probably for a new finance director. Brian and no one else could do the job effectively. Did our town miss out on any COVID-19 stimulus package funds? I don't know. I'm sure that's something that Brian is aware of. Was that a priority for our town? I don't have the answer to that. I don't know what our priorities are. In our CIP, capital improvement plan for the town hall consolidation, we have an estimated reserve of $1,613,000. The total cost projection was $1,972,000. No funding has been allocated for 2021. I asked at one of the last budgeting workshops that I attended, could we possibly spend some of that money now for our town hall consolidation? Cost of construction, especially with COVID now, continues to go up, and we're sitting on this money and we cannot put any additional funds because of constraints. I asked that question and I was told that we'll check into it. Have heard nothing. I've pushed for Stubbtown Road, town property, to look into solar, and that's being looked at. Have heard very little about that recently. You look at town hall consolidation, our IT director works out of a closet, if you don't know, right there. That's our IT director. Our town clerk, Lisa, who does a great job in her staff, she works out of a closet. Liz Monty, our tax assessor, works out of a closet. If anyone wanted to go and see the former finance director, or have a meeting in the planning department, and they can't climb rickety stairs, they can't do it. You can't get up those stairs. They're very good about meeting people downstairs and meeting people here. I give them credit for making the attempt. If you wanted to have a meeting with someone in our town, good luck. You'd have to go to 5 different buildings. That's how we're spread out in this town, 5 different buildings. I'm not sure where our new town manager is going to have his office, but the former town manager had his office, as we all know, at Crandall House. Where is the town clerk? Town clerk's here. I still don't understand why we're not looking into this town hall consolidation and spending the money that we have now. We just keep waiting. A few months back, as most of you were aware of, I've been harassed by one individual. It got to the point where I had to file a police report. I had to file a complaint with the postmaster over this individual going into my mailbox and dropping off something. I also had to file a no trespass order against this individual. That's how serious it was. My wife has a serious medical condition. I don't need this individual coming up to my back door and knocking on it and wanting to talk to me, as this person has done in the past. I sent an email on May 21st to our town manager and our acting town manager, I'm sorry, to our town council president and our acting town manager, May 21st. 5 or 6 days later, I received a call from Brian. He apologized. He was away for a few days. Just got my email and wanted to talk to me, asked me if our council president, and I wish our council president was here tonight. Is he on vacation or?
He's out of town, I don't know whether.
I wish he was here, because I prepared this about 4 days ago. Brian apologized and got back to me and said, has the town council president reached out to you about having this meeting? I said, no. May 21st, I have not heard one word back. At that point, I told Brian, I'm sure he recalls, I'm going to cancel this meeting. Because as an elected official of our town, when I get mail put into my mailbox that says the definition of a kiss ass, and it has the town hall's address as the sender of that letter. That could have been information from a client, as far as I knew. And I don't get a response as an elected official. August 1st, I sent an email to Lisa Scott and Steve Moffin in reference to an amendment that I had proposed as a change for the PSES. I asked a few times about a work schedule, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, no weekends and holidays. I was told we're keeping a list, and we will consider that. When I had not heard a response, the president did get back to me and said that Lisa was on vacation. He would discuss it with Lisa and get back to me. That was the last time I've heard that. I recently sent an email September 8th about the audio. That September 7th council meeting that we had, you could not hear. I listened to it the next day, and I understand we've got a lot of technical issues and we're trying to work through it and get the equipment, but I was concerned that maybe one individual will file a complaint with the Ethics Commission about that. I was talking at the podium and our solicitor was speaking. You couldn't hear me at all, but you could hear the solicitor. And I called Lisa the next day. I'm sure that she checked into it because it really was a bad situation. You know, I've been involved recently, and I want to thank Meg and Jason Teff about the flags that they graciously provided for us on Main Street. And I asked at a recent council meeting who was going to contact the 2 schools and the 2 post office about lowering the flags. I was told I would check into it. I went out that day on 9/11. I want to thank David Caswell and his staff from DPW because they did lower the flags where they could. I came up here. The flag at the post office right here was at full staff on 9/11. I went to Hope Valley Elementary School. The flag was at full staff. I got out and I went to lower that flag myself. I could not do it because it's locked and the cords are inside. I called the principal of Hope Valley Elementary School and I spoke to him. He was very apologetic about it and was sorry that that happened. It was not done. The simple solution would be to have 4 council members. Each person make 1 phone call to this post office as a reminder about 9/11. Call the Hope Valley post office. Call the 2 schools. Make an attempt to lower those flags. As I was going to Crandall Field to check that flag, which was lowered, I saw Councilor Hurst's car at Brick Oven. And I went in and I had a coffee and I was talking to Scott. He was all dressed up in a suit and tie. And I said to Scott, what's going on? Do you have a date? Where are you off to?
That's hardly a possibility.
And he said, I'm going to he referred to it as a parade. I respectfully disagree with the word parade on 9/11. It's a memorial in my mind. Scott said he was going to the parade, and I said, really? He said, the town council was not invited, but I'm going. He made the initiative to go to that parade. I had planned on going to that parade, but my back had been killing me for a couple of days, and I couldn't do that after driving that morning. My point is, did anyone from our town employees, department heads, town council, did anyone think about calling Justin Lee, the chief that was putting on this memorial, and ask about the town's involvement in the memorial service for 9/11, 20 years, and our town is not represented? As far as I know I have a picture of Councilor Hurst walking in that parade. I know Councilor Gary had something else in a memorial service, but I just don't know what our involvement was. I'm going to generalize again, but this council has spent month after month after month on a revision to a new PSES. We've had discussions about turning a monument around. We've had discussions about ATVs. In closing, this council earns $12,175 of taxpayer money each year. I thought part of your responsibility, again I'm generalizing, I thought part of your responsibility was to answer questions by town residents. This may be one of the reasons that town residents are not involved. To help improve our town, I don't get it. I walk out of these meetings, and I'm going to walk out of here tonight, and I'm going to say, look around. Why? Aren't you concerned about this? I know you are. How do we improve it? We respond to emails, we respond to phone calls, we get back to people. I voted for everyone that's in this room. I'm not sure, our council, employees, the council people are entitled to vacations. That's not the point, but I expect a return call or a return email. He does it all the time. She does it all the time. Lisa does it all the time.
Right.
Not important. You can tell I'm fired up about this because I don't plan on attending any more of these meetings. I really don't. And I'll tell you why. We don't get the respect, the residents, that we deserve. My respect is lowering that damn flag on 9/11, making a phone call, getting the job done, checking on it. I have to call the principal of Hope Valley to find out why his flag isn't low. The custodian had a death in the family unexpectedly, wasn't able to work, and it slipped through the cracks. He also, his name is Giuseppe Gincarelli, I believe, French guy, right? He also told me that he normally gets a letter from the school superintendent about lowering the flags. Never, an email rather. He never received an email. Maybe I'm old-fashioned and I'm used to people responding to when you call them. But now, at this day and age, when you email them and getting back to people. There's so many things that we need to do in this town. I deal with people that have a problem putting food on their table. Can't pay their oil bill, can't pay their electricity. I have to respond, that's part of my job. And that's all I have to say, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, I'd like to move that we adjourn in memory of William E. Perry.
I'm sorry, Scott, I did not hear what you said.
I'll give you the thing. I said I move that we adjourn in memory of William E. Perry.
Eric,
I'll give you the sheet.
I got it.
I second.
All those in favor?
First, aye.
Marvel, aye.
Gary, aye.
Davis, aye.
Couldn't believe it, I just voted, I didn't die.
Eleanor's son, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All that, you guys?
I knew his wife.
Well,
Say hello to your wife.